Hello and welcome to the 40th edition of the Jaguar Report podcast. My name's Gus Logue. I'm joined by my co-host, John Shipley. John, it's the doom days of summer. How are we doing?
It was a dog's day of summer, but
Dog's Day.
my cat's officially, scurrying across my keyboard and attempting to disrupt every attempt that we make at actually recording a show this week has been eventful. So it's the cat day of summer. I mean, May counts as summer to me. Like we're like anything post draft before week one is summer to me. I no longer live on like your time, Gus. I live on the NFL.
Oh, you usually live on my time.
Shut up. I'm notoriously wasteful of your time. I no longer live on the time of your like. I live on the NFL time. I'm no longer.
Well, that's fair. On the NFL schedule.
Yeah. So anything post draft is summer to me, and anything post like Super Bowl to draft is spring, and then the season until Thanksgiving is fall. Yeah, we'll call it that. And
just
then,
the season opener until like whenever you start to get like really tired of the season is fall, and then once you're tired of the season, you want it to be over. That's winter.
Exactly, because at that point, like I feel like winter. I feel dark and cold. Yeah, so there you go. I'm glad I let you walk around my brain a little bit. Wipe your shoes off on the mat.
Always a pleasure. I would say I'm going to go against the grain though, since we always agree on this podcast. Summer doesn't start till the end of May in my book because April showers bring May flowers seems pretty springy. I don't know. June seems like a strong summer month, right?
Well,
May, June, July.
Well, I don't know what that phrase means, but I will contest that we agree on everything. I think your Ravens take was ludicrous. Obviously my stance against it looks far worse now than it did then, but nonetheless, we're in the days of summer, man. The days of post draft where like people officially don't care about the 2023 draft anymore, right? Would you say that?
Yeah, I was just trying to remember if I had any last posts to publish about it, and I don't, so therefore I agree with you.
I'll be honest, like just like for listeners, people who, read the site. I would love to do like film articles, but the NFL has crashed like so hard down the NCAA on posting film and like not just posting them on social media, but posting them as stories that, if I have to choose between giving you guys a film story in Parker, Washington and being employed, I'm going with the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you got big things cooking over at Big Cat Country.
That's right. I've been a little busy because we have opened up for applicants. If you're interested in being a contributor on Big Cat Country, then you can find a way to apply on the website. We're looking for a couple of people to help contribute like 2 or 3 weekly articles because right now the stuff is me doing a lot of the heavy lifting writing wise, plus Alfie doing his like editor emeritus thing or whatever it's called. Plus, we got someone named Caitlin who's been doing an awesome job on our social team. But yeah, right now I feel like I'm doing like 90% of the words. So I need some help. So help me out.
Yeah, no, I mean you're classing to join up if you're actually taking applicants. It used to just be you could grab random people online and not vet them at all. So look at you.
There you go. Well, I've been pretty encouraged because there's been like at least 20, I would say.
Including
me? Not including you, John. Now, I reached out to the area scout about you, and he had some concerns about off the field issues. So
you can't listen to anonymous scouts.
This guy was pounding the table, John.
yeah. I'm sure he was. I have a fairly good idea of who it would be too. So, I recommend anybody to apply to work with Gus. Worked with Gus at the writing portion of Jaguar Report for some time. Does stellar work, but this is a cutthroat business, Gus, and I'm coming for you. I could not care less about competition among Jaguars websites. So, Speaking of, we had some news today.
We did have some news today. The big event of the spring/summer, whatever you want to call it, besides the NFL draft, is the schedule release, which the full schedule release will happen on Thursday, May 11th. There's like a huge 3-hour televised event. But the NFL did release the 5 international games for the 2023 season on Wednesday morning. 2 of those 5 games feature your Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags are going to be the first NFL team to play 2 London games in the same season.
Like, I have a lot of thoughts, but first, I'd like to just say overall on the NFL's schedule announcements, putting the Tyreek returns to the Kansas City game in Germany is stupid to me. And also the Chiefs playing the Bengals in like week 17 or whatever they announced. That sounds terrible. Like that should be the season opener.
Yeah, it should be. That does sound terrible.
Yeah, no.
I was just gonna say I didn't even look at the other games, honestly.
There you go. That's the
So
kind
this
of
is all news to me. This is why I listen to our own podcast.
I haven't seen it. It's new to me. Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
The 2 games that I do know that are going to happen abroad are in week 4, the Jags will play the Falcons. That's October 1st. And then they're going to stay there and play the Bills on October 8th. And that'll be week 5. And then you would assume that their bye week will be in week 6. So we've got a little bit of the pieces to the full schedule put together for the puzzle. Great analogy, but
Those calendar reading lessons have paid off for you. I want to say they've paid off swimmingly. No,
I paid a good price.
I recommended them to you. No, the like actual on field product, like I don't think they could have like drawn better opponents for like the 2 London games, because with Atlanta, you're playing them in week 4, so it's early in the season. I like see Atlanta as like kind of similar to Jacksonville last year, if like the quarterback had like any of the talent of, but I mean, they're a young roster, a young quarterback. Lawrence obviously is much better than Desmond Ritter and had more experience entering last year, but Ritter will be in his 8th start entering week 4, and then they have a new defense coordinator, a first-time coordinator, and a lot of new faces on defense. It normally takes, and like I think, a defense longer than an offense to get used to like playing with new people, just because so much of it is like communication and reactive.
Right.
So I think like the Falcons, like you'd much rather play them in the beginning of the season than the end of the season, and now plus you're getting them, in London. So I think that's a solid draw for them. I'll be honest, if you're going to lose a home game, like I've seen Atlanta versus the Jaguars in Jacksonville like a million times. Like that's an extremely bleh, like game, like home game. Like if you're going to lose one, that's the one, you're probably okay with parting with. And to me, any year that they're not losing a home divisional game is kind of a good thing at this point, because they've played like several like AFC South games in London, and those are home games, and it's basically kind of like shooting yourself in the foot in terms of the divisional race. So any year they don't do that anymore is a good thing.
Absolutely. And then for the Bills, you kind of mentioned the Falcons will be the home game, and the Bills will technically be a road game for the Jaguars. And I mean, it's a better advantage for the Jaguars to be playing in London and kind of already be over there from playing the Falcons the week before, as opposed to just going up to Buffalo for an away game at the Bills Stadium.
Yeah, and like Buffalo is going to have to, go to London, get acclimated. Like I talked to a veteran Jags player who's made several London trips today, and he said like it's the hardest trip they make every year. Like, in my opinion, people really underestimate like how taxing of a trip that is. Like you're going, to and from, the Atlantic Sea, and you're playing a grueling game, and your entire routine's being thrown off, stuff like that. So I think there could be a tactical advantage over Buffalo. Like Buffalo should probably not be too happy that they're drawing, the Jaguars.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough draw for Buffalo, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's like I think people are probably a little bit upset about the fact that the Jags are playing 2 games in London, and they've played the most games in London out of any other franchise. It's going to be their 10th and 11th games over there. But like, there's also renovations happening, right? So,
yeah, I mean, like you can see, like to me, the Jaguars have done a terrific job over the last couple of years of like, yeah, even though they've had to play in London every year except the COVID year, that they've like basically like all Jaguars relocation rumors and articles from like 2012, 2013, like they've gone away, the last couple of years, like pretty easily. Mm-hmm. But every time like them getting any more of a connection to London happens, you're going to see those stories. Like Mike Florio had one today. So to me, I'm not going to fault them for accepting a second game in the long run. They're not losing a home game. It's something that might not even be a multi-year thing. Maybe it's just a one-off, and they see how it goes. But I understand why people would react negatively to it. But I'd also, like you said, they're trying to get a $600 million, renovation that's supposed to be like a state-of-the-art stadium built. The practice facility will be ready, I believe, in July. I mean, they got a lot invested in Jacksonville. Just nothing they do makes sense to me as a team that would actually relocate, to London, like, Mike Florio theorized, or like, you'll ultimately when, the Jaguars pick up an extra game in London. I get it's unprecedented, first time a team's ever done it. People are now going to talk about them in London, which, again, I completely get why Jacksonville fans hate it. But I don't think this game actually means anything for them in London. I really don't think it means anything.
I'm excited for the rest of the schedule to come out, so then we can not really focus on London anymore.
Who's your week one guess, so I can potentially get it right over you and hold it over you for the rest of the season? Hosting the Colts.
You think they're going to host the Colts?
Yeah.
I was going to say Bengals. I was trying to think of like one of the more exciting teams that they have on the schedule. And like Chiefs was first thought, but they're probably going to play the Eagles, right, in a Super Bowl rematch. Isn't that how it usually works week one? And like
sense.
Jags and Chiefs will probably play like someone more popular than the Jags week one. But I feel like Bengals Jags could be a pretty fun week one matchup just because it's Burrow and Lawrence back-to-back number one overall picks, young franchise quarterbacks.
We went in very opposite directions on that one. we
Good. I was worried after last week that we were starting to agree on too much since we gave like pretty much every single player the same grade for the draft. So
what if I said week one versus the Titans? Would you have had that visual or reaction?
Yeah, I would have had that over like if you had said like any division opponent, then I would have had the same reaction because I was on the opposite wavelength. I was thinking of like their most exciting matchups.
What's your guess on primetime games?
How
many?
My guess is 2, and one will be a Thursday night division game.
Yeah, that's my guess.
One will hopefully be like Chiefs Jaguars. I don't know. I feel like Chiefs Jaguars would be pretty cool. I want that to be like a good scheduled game.
I feel like anybody like hoping they get like 5 or 6 is like setting themselves up to be heartbroken.
How many teams even get 5 or 6 a year? Like
I feel like the Bears had like 5 last year. But these are teams in big markets.
That's not the Bears. That's Chicago. Yeah. So I would be I'm expecting 2, and I'd be happy with 3. I think that's my stance.
Yeah.
Because when was the last time they had 3? Did they even have 3 in 2018 after they went to the AFC Championship?
No, if I recall, they had 2 scheduled, and they only played 1 because they got Flex Albus.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they stunk.
All right, so yeah.
There you go. Yeah, well,
maybe 2.
Hey, I mean, the schedule's always, big event with the NFL. So, like, you already know the opponent, so it's a fair question. Like, okay, why does the order really matter? But to me, like, the order, like when the bye week comes, how many away games you have, like it's all, a part of the picture. So you can expect I'll be doing something this week on my, ultimate reactions to it, my game by game predictions. I think last year I was doing pretty solid in my predictions, and then they started winning every game towards the end of the season. And I think I predicted like 6-10 or whatever. So no, 7-10, 6-11, something like that.
7-10, yeah. Yeah. All right. You got anything else? Should we move on to rookie mini camp this weekend? Woo! More exciting news in the NFL front.
Rookie mini camp. Again, the most exciting thing I saw at last year's rookie mini camp was Trayvon Walker line up in a 2-point stance. Just because like it showed like how much of a freaking person that he is. Like his arms are insanely, long. And I don't know, like this, like in terms of this rookie minicamp, like there'll be a few things, I'm looking for. Obviously, how Brenton Strange, like how he just looks, athletically, especially, up in person, size-wise compared to some of the other players on the field. Tank Bigsby, what he can look like, athletically, what he can look like catching the ball. And then I do think a couple undrafted guys are interesting. I think Caleb Hayes out of BYU. He tested like insanely. Like he was one of the best testers like at cornerback in this draft class. Ended up, going undrafted. He's a smaller guy. I think he can be interesting. And then Elijah Cooks at wide receiver from San Jose State. He's 6'4", 215. He played at Nevada for a couple of years, then transferred to San Jose State. Had 10 touchdowns last year after 18 touchdowns at Nevada over a couple of years. I mean, they don't have a lot of size in the wide receiver. Like they're a very short wide receiver room right now.
Yeah. I was stunned that you said Elijah Cooks is 6'4". I think I was just assuming that he was tiny because I was thinking of like a mix between Elijah Moore and Brandon Cooks, maybe. I was like, oh, Elijah Cooks, that's got to be like this tiny slot receiver.
Hey, I wouldn't blame you either because, I mean, other than like some of the practice squad guys they have, they have a few practice squad guys who are, fairly tall, but they don't really have anybody that, stands out as a big target. And of course, maybe Brendan Strange can be that kind of guy, but like Jamal Agnew's 5'10", Zay Jones, he's 6'2", but I don't know. You see Zay, like he's not like a big receiver, Tim Jones 6'1", Christian Kirk's 5'11", Calvin Ridley's 6'1", Parker Washington's 5'10". Like I would imagine that's like one of the shorter wide receiver rooms in the NFL. So
yeah, and they're all not like terribly skinny, but they're definitely don't have like bulk on their frames either.
No, so maybe like if there's any like type of receiver who could maybe make some noise and like maybe fight for a way on there, it's like that big body receiver. So
right,
he is the guy I'm watching. Like in terms of like undrafted guys, he's the guy that I'm watching over this next week or so.
Gotcha. I would say Hayes for sure would be like the most interesting guy for me in terms of just a list of the undrafted free agents, and then the Cincinnati tight end. I was gonna say Garrett Prince, but that's not his name. That's their UDFA tight end from last year.
Yeah. Hey, he's a tight end. What, tight end 4 right now?
Yeah, tight end 4, tight end 3 before the draft.
You're thinking of Leonard Taylor.
Leonard Taylor, that's right.
Wow, they've had a lot of East-West Shrine guys.
I just saw his name pop up in like some national media's ranking of like UDFA guys to like look out for each team.
Yeah,
but I think Hayes is like easily the most exciting.
Yeah, no, I think Taylor makes a lot. Like he's 6'5", 260. He's like a former like all like world like high school basketball player. He had offers from like bigger schools at other positions. So I mean, when you're returning to like a roster with as many guys as last year, like I think I saw some graph out there. I'm not sure if we actually put together the data, but that like the Jaguars like are returning like the biggest percentage of like players from last year, like on that current roster.
Oh yeah,
like
is that the one that Clay Harbor posted?
Yeah, and I'm not sure who actually made it, so I can't reference it, but it like that like kind of goes to show like this will be a tough roster. Like, and with 13 drafted players, like this will be a tough roster to make for an undrafted rookie.
Yeah. So the rookie camp is going to be this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, the 12th and 13th, and then after that, there's going to be a voluntary organized team activities beginning on May 22nd. Yeah. So
voluntary.
That's what the Jaguars website says.
In TC's world, it's not voluntary.
In TC's world,
I'll never forget that was when I worked in Palatka, and I was like at my desk scrolling through Twitter, and I saw his comment about like I think it was Telvin Smith and Jalen Ramsey not showing up to voluntary workout. I was like, oh dear, the union will not appreciate that one.
No. All right, you got anything else to add before we go to the 53?
Nah, man, let's hit the 53 because this was honestly like I felt like with how many players they have returning, like a cool exercise, and like I didn't go into it thinking, okay, I want to keep this many draft picks. I just kept which rookies I felt made sense, and I was surprised that I was able to fit as many draft picks as I could on there.
So right now we're going to do one of my favorite segments on this show, which is pull up one of John's published articles and just read through it and talk about it. So John posted post-draft depth chart predictions. That was a mouthful. On May 1st.
I hate that headline now. Jesus. God. Let's go. Keep reading this filth. Come on.
All right, well, offense, let's go. Quarterback. I think it's interesting that you kept 2 quarterbacks just because, I mean, not that there's like a ton of talk about it, but Peterson
Until
is a huge like quarterback room guy. And so CJ Beathard is a pretty good number 2 backup quarterback. I guess I didn't draft anyone, so the XFL kid probably would have been the only other guy to make the roster.
they didn't even sign one. They signed EJ Perry and like in terms of undrafted guys, like they didn't add anybody. So yeah, like somebody asked me, like, are you accounting for like the change in the quarterback rule? And the answer is until it's officially changed, it doesn't exist to me. So get back to me when it's an actual thing, and I'll apply it. But I think you're right. Like Rourke is their number 3. Beathard's and like he'll be on the practice squad. Beathard's number 2. He's Trevor's guy, and then just the entire hope of a football franchise and hundreds of families and a city on Trevor Lawrence at quarterback.
Hundreds of families, or just our families?
No, I would say that like the thing that it's been explained to me that like the amount of pressure that goes with playing like quarterback, especially being like a franchise quarterback in the NFL, is every person in that building, like their families rely on you, dude. Like,
oh yeah,
if you suck, everybody gets fired. Like if people got uprooted from their homes because Blaine Gabbert sucked, like kids got taken out of schools, people lost their jobs, etc. No, I'm being serious.
You're so right. Just the way you put it, of like Blaine Gabbert
ended childhood friendships.
That's true. That he did. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. I thought you meant like fans' families. I was like,
oh no,
I mean, for like happiness, yeah, but
no, those aren't a thing.
No. All right, running back. You got 4. There's 22 positions. We gotta get through this, John. Yes. I'm not trying to go all night or all day. I'm not trying to make it through what you think is summer.
Let's go.
We got Travis Etienne, Jermichael Hasty, rookie Tank Bigsby, and free agent signing D'Ernest Johnson, which leaves out 2022 draft pick Snoop Connor.
Who they traded up for? I just think like it's obviously a lot can change during training camp. Maybe Snoop Connor looks like a revelation, during training camp. He had some solid flashes during last year's camp, but also like it just seems obvious that okay, Travis, you're the starter. Hasty, you're Travis's backup. Tank, you're the power guy, basically change your pace type to Travis. And D'Ernest Johnson, you're playing special teams, and you'll be there in case anybody gets hurt. Like to me, it's like one of the most like obviously like place for rooms, and Snoop is just on the outside looking in. Maybe they keep 5 running backs, but I think in this day and age, like what's really the point? Like him just having 0 special team snaps last year, I think is going to hurt him.
Yeah, and I mean he'll probably end up on the practice squad, but I agree. As of now, he's on the outside looking in. So tight ends next. Evan Engram, rookie Brenton Strange, and is Luke Farrell. Is he a 3rd year or 4th year?
He's 3rd.
3rd year. So no Garrett Prince, no Cincinnati tight end.
Lightroom.
Yep. I mean,
they just like with the way that they can use Strange, like he can basically like. I think if you keep a 4th tight end, he's just like a special teams guy.
Yeah.
I like Strange will be used as a blocker and receiver. Farrell will be a blocker. Ingram will be a receiver. Maybe they do keep Prince, but I just feel like with the way the roster shakes out right now, I don't even like if you have other guys who can play special teams, I don't see what the value of a 4th tight end really gives them when those 3 guys are probably going to have like super defined roles.
Right. Yeah. I guess kind of same as Snoop where man, what's the Cincinnati's tight end? What's his name?
Leonard Taylor.
Taylor and Prince are like Snoop, just on the outside looking in with special teams not really helping.
That is the one position I could say like I could obviously see that being wrong and then taking 4 tight ends, which okay, Garrett or Leonard Taylor. I don't know. That'd be an interesting training camp battle to watch.
Do you remember if they had 4 tight ends on their original 53 last year?
Yeah, they did. They had Ingram, Manhurts, Arnold, and Farrell.
Oh, Because I was gonna say like was Prince the last one, but I forgot. I forgot about Dan Arnold.
Doug's also gone years where he only had 3 tight ends on the roster too, like with the Eagles. So it wouldn't be like some like, oh my God, what is he doing type thing, you know?
Right. Okay. Offensive line: Walker Little, Luke Fortner, Brandon Scherf, Anton Harrison, Tyler Shatley, Ben Barch, and then Josh Wells, Blake Hance, Chandler Brewer, Cooper Hodges.
Like Cam
No,
Robinson will be
no
on
Cam
there.
Robinson.
He'll be on there once he's not suspended, but he won't count toward the first
Okay. I
50.
was waiting for a hot take to emerge.
Yeah. So you can just insert him for like Cooper Hodges or
Okay.
Chandler Brewer. And like to me, like the most interesting thing about the line is who's going to start week 1 at left guard. Shatley, he was solid for them last year. Doug Peterson, I feel like they really like Shatley. Barch is somebody who they're also high on, but I mean, Jim Balky said before the draft that he's not sure he'll be ready for a start training camp after, his knee injury last year. So that to me is an interesting position group to watch. But otherwise, I mean, week 1, you're going to have Walker Little at left tackle, Anton Harrison at right tackle, and Sheriff and Porter in their spots. Like you have 80% of the week 1 line like already set. So yeah, maybe like if you get your rocks off, like talking about depth offensive linemen, you can debate Chandler Brewer, Cole Van Lannon, Blake Hance, all that. I personally feel like Van Lannon, even though they traded for him, like he was bypassed like as a backup guard last year. Like when Sheriff went down against the Jets, they didn't put Van Lannon in, and he struggled in like the few real snaps he played. So somebody asked me about him, and he just like to me like I'm projecting that they'll have more impressive options during training camp. But again, this is talking about backup offensive linemen.
Right. So you think 10's a pretty solid number?
Yeah, 9 to 10.
Okay, 9 to 10. I don't know if you were like considering going one way
No,
or the
not
other.
like it's important to remember you don't have 53 guys active on game day. Like you're gonna have some of these guys on the 53 mans are gonna be inactive on game day. So I'd imagine some of those are gonna be offensive linemen.
All right. I'm excited to see Ben Barch in another year starting. He only played, I feel like 6 games before he got placed on injured reserve. And I remember the first game last season against the Commanders being pretty brutal, just because I mean it was week 1 and like that defensive line is ridiculous. Yeah. But like after that he was playing pretty cleanly, so I'd be looking forward to seeing him return to the lineup.
And it's a contract year for him too. Like it's an important year. So they definitely seem like they really like his skill set. It's just like you said, it's getting healthy and staying on the field. So I'm with you. Like out of all of their offensive linemen, him and Anton Harrison obviously are the two I'm most interested to see like when the season rolls around.
All right. Okay. Now we're again to wide receiver. We got Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Jamal Agnew, Tim Jones, and Parker Washington, which is 6.
And I would imagine Parker Washington would probably him or Tim Jones would be like inactive most games. Like they normally carried 5 receivers on game day. We already know who 4 of those guys are going to be. It's like they're 3 starters, and Jamal Agnew's a lock to make the roster. So it's really the questions behind them. To me, it's like Tim Jones, Kendrick Pryor, and Parker Washington right now are the 3 guys before training camp who are, I think, jockeying for that 5 and 6 role, like those last 2 spots to make the roster.
Yeah.
Again, you could see somebody different, like maybe Kevin Austin had like dramatically, improved this offseason. Maybe somebody like Elijah Cooks challenges, Kendrick Pryor or something like that. But my guess is Tim Jones, 6th round as the 5th or 6th receiver. They really like Tim Jones, and I think I even put it in that like if you want to roll with 3 tight ends, it makes sense to keep Tim Jones on the roster because he's like a throwback like blocker as
he's like easily the best blocking receiver that they have.
Yeah, like you could even play him as like a split end and like be like kind of like almost like a de facto, like split out tight end in terms of blocking.
Right. I think he also played like a lot more snaps last year than me or like most people would realize, which is partly because he was just blocking and
They
not.
like him, dude.
Yeah, but so yeah, they like him. So I really got no surprises here. I agree. That's
Ooh, yeah, you're right. I would not have guessed he played that many snaps.
how many was it?
Yes, give me what you think it is. I would have guessed before looking at it that it was like 80. It's not.
I was gonna guess 120.
You're gonna guess 120?
Yeah,
135.
yeah. Let's get him out.
So it only ended up being like 13%, but that 145. I'm terrible. It's still 13%. So
All right.
so it's basically like I think Parker Washington will win a spot over Kendrick Pryor, who was mostly inactive for them last year. And Washington will have to like prove like he can be like a special team type guy, but I think it makes sense, especially they got lucky at wide receiver last year where they didn't have a lot of injuries. Like I think Zay missed a couple games, but other than that, they really didn't have injuries. You can't expect that to happen again this year. So say anything ever happens, to Kirk or Zay or anything like that, I think Washington he's a playable, receiver at some of those different spots, especially behind Kirk.
Are there any injury concerns with him? Because I feel like I saw that part of the reason he fell in the draft was just because he skipped a pro day or something because of medicals. But I figure he'll be ready by training camp in the season. But I was just checking.
Yeah, no, he had a ankle injury at the end of last season. I think it was in November, and he missed the end of the season, etc. And he was still recovering from that. But to my knowledge, he's been completely cleared.
Okay, sweet. All right, well, that's the offense. We did pretty good. I didn't think that was gonna.
You have any major points of contention, or are we a happily married couple?
We're a happily married couple. Honestly, the only thing that was slightly surprising to me was 2 quarterbacks instead of 3, but that's not even actually surprising. It's just yeah. So no surprises.
And again, maybe the NFL changes the actually enacts the rule, and they can have 3 quarterbacks on game day, so it's not like the 49ers in the playoffs last year. But until then, I'm not abiding by it. Again, I don't live on your calendar, Gus. I don't live in your reality. I'm in a different.
Oh, you're setting your own illusion.
Yeah. I'm very illusioned. I'm very disillusioned.
All right. Well, let's go with defense, starting with edge, Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, Kayvon Chason, and rookie Yasir Abdullah. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that Jordan Smith isn't on there, just because, and less about Jordan Smith and more about just the lack of edge depth.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they'll counter it with the fact that they have a couple big guys that they think can play edge on base downs, and I don't know. I maybe if they add a veteran, you can throw in there as a 5th guy,
right?
Maybe you keep Jordan Smith. It's just that it seems like one position they're all chips pushed in on Trayvon and Josh Walker, Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. It doesn't. Like last year, they didn't carry many edge guys because they had Arden Key and DeJuan Smoot, who were, kind of de facto edge guys. So maybe they sign a veteran who kind of makes it like that. Maybe they see Tyler, like they already mentioned, they think Tyler Lacey could be a big end on base downs. So yeah,
just getting visions of Dwayne Smoot again.
When I watched him, that's literally what I think if he can develop into a Smoot player, that's a big hit in the 4th.
Yeah, I agree. It's just it was a little bit.
Oh no, it's very
seeing Smoot play on the edge sometimes and just not be able to track down a run on the other side of the formation.
Oh,
or even
it's absolutely what I think could happen.
Because I think the same thing that you said about receivers, how they're lucky about injuries last year and can't really rely on that again. That 100% applies to edge. Because if Trayvon Walker or Josh Allen goes down, even for just one game, both your starters and depth at the position are looking pretty rough.
Almost feels like they could have drafted an edge rusher.
Almost.
A little higher.
Well, we're going to get to some free agents that they could add to the position later on once we get through it. But moving on to defensive line, we got 5 guys: Roy Robertson Harris, Folia Fatukazi, Devon Hamilton, rookie Tyler Lacey, and Adam Gotsis. So no Michael Dogbe or Dogbe.
Or Henry Mondo. Neither one.
Right, or 7th round pick. Those 2 guys were free agent additions, but very small ones. And then Raymond Vohasek was picked in the 7th round.
And maybe one of those guys could fight for a 6th spot, but they didn't carry many big guys last year. And it really feels like they're not going to again. This year last year their initial 53 had 4 interior linemen on it.
Was Corey Peters a part of that, or was he added late?
They picked him up during the season.
So I kind of feel like that's would be the move here is if one of these 5 guys goes down, then they can, because I kind of think interior defensive line is low-key one of the deeper positions in the league. So I feel like they could do something similar as a Corey Peters pickup and just find someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it just seems like they have very defined roles again for guys because you're returning a bunch of guys. I think you see Devon Hamilton and even an expanded role this year. They just paid him. Maybe he could have an emergence as a pass rusher, like some of these other nose tackles have had in the last couple of years.
I mean, Hamilton isn't like super consistent as a pass rusher, but he does show some nice flashes.
I think the traits are there.
Yeah, so I think that's like fair to hope for or expect.
It's not like he's like. Do you remember Mount Cody, the Alabama defensive tackle?
Nope.
Yeah, okay. The 400-pound nose tackle the Gators have.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just a complete blob of a player. Like Hamilton's like not that kind of nose tackle. Like he's actually like athletic.
For sure. But man, he can stuff the run too. I feel like he's easily the best run defender on the entire defense.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
He's a tank. We like Ham on this pod.
Big Ham fans.
Big Ham fans. Inside linebacker, we got 5 guys again: Foye Oluokun, Devin Lloyd, Chad Muma, Shaquille Quarterman, and rookie Ventrell Miller. Not really any surprises there.
Same linebacker room as last year. Just swap out Caleb Johnson for Ventrell Miller. I'm actually surprised because I thought Caleb Johnson was really good on special teams last year, but they obviously see something in Ventrell, and maybe Caleb Johnson makes it over a guy like Shaq Quarterman. But I just think with how experienced Quarterman is in their system and overall, you would imagine he's somebody that you won't want to keep around as depth in special teams and stuff. But I don't know. I'm doing an article on the rookies most likely to make an instant impact next year, and I'm not going to give anything away. But Ventrell is not particularly high on the list.
No, I was wondering, do you think this is a decent take or just too much galaxy brain, or Ventrell was picked more so for the starters at the position than the depth of the position, just in the sense that he's a smart guy and could be like a off the field coach for the young guys, Lloyd and Muma, or is that just ridiculous?
Aren't him and Lloyd the same age?
Of Miller's, you might be right.
I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I kind of disagree because he's going to enter just how locker rooms are. When you enter as a rookie, you basically have to just keep your head down and shut up until you basically through it. Unless you're like an all-world guy like Sauce Gardner or anything.
Right.
Me personally, if I'm Chad Muma and Ventrell Miller tries to teach me, I'm probably telling him to, wait a year.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
But I will say, I like where your head's at.
Okay.
That was my general way of saying Galaxy brand.
Cornerback, 6 names: Tyson Campbell, Darius Williams, Trey Herndon, Chris Claybrooks, Christian Braswell, who's a rookie, and another rookie, Eric Hallett, who's specifically in the corner room and not the safety room.
You could count him as a safety too, but they specifically mentioned nickel with him. So he's even played outside before. So I think he could be in the corner room. A lot of people were surprised I had Chris Claybrooks on there because of his arrest in Nashville, but he's been at workouts and stuff. It's if they were going to release him, they would have already. It's obviously unfortunate headlines and incident and whatnot, but I don't think that's going to factor into him on the 53-man roster. And he's good special teams depth. He's they like him in terms of being outside depth. And when I look at that's the one thing that comes to mind is where really is the outside depth. I guess Trey Herndon, you could count him as if an outside guy goes down, put him on the outside and slot somebody else in. Chris Claybrooks, but then to me, Braswell and Halleck are basically slot guys strictly. But I think they'll make it over Monteric Brown and Gregory Jr. I think Monteric Brown will have a fighting they like him, so I think he'll have a fighting chance to make the roster. It's going to be tough, man. I mean, when you have that many guys vying for that many spots, it's going to be cutthroat.
Do you feel confident that Trey Herndon will start week 1 as the nickel, or do you think there's an outside chance that one of these rookies,
Maybe if they had a stellar training camp. So I'll say I'm 95% thinking Trey Herndon's going to start week 1.
Okay.
And Trey Herndon always, I'll be honest, he always has a good training camp.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna assume it's more or less the same.
Okay. To almost close out, safeties, 5 names: Rayshon Jenkins, Andre Sisco, Andrew Wingard, Antonio Johnson, who's a rookie, and Daniel Thomas. I guess I was a little bit surprised to see Daniel Thomas. Not because I'm a fan and I like him a lot, but he's solid depth and a good special teamser. But I just figured if there was going to be one position where you had to cut out a guy in order to make room for somewhere else on the depth chart, then it would be safety. But you got 5.
Are you that surprised if I tell you that he's in this scenario he's inactive for every game?
No.
That's that was roster spot so 50 roster spots, not counting the specialists. That was roster spot 49 or 50. I'll be honest. They carried 5 last year with Tyree Gillespie, and he never played. So I would just assume Daniel Thomas goes from the 4th guy who plays special teams to number 5 and doesn't play at all, while Antonio Johnson. They to me have their top 3 safeties lined up. Antonio Johnson's not going to be their nickel corner. Anybody who wants to see Antonio Johnson go out there as a rookie and defend slot receivers consistently in man-to-man coverage, you
look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, stop referencing the PFF tweet about him playing in the slot. Just that off-step so he's shut up about the sun. Shut up about the sun. That's what I feel about that. Yeah, he did play a lot of snaps in the slot in college, but it was mostly because the scheme they played, the strong safety was in the box a good bit. He, to me, is going to be Rayshon Jenkins' backup. And, it's going to be Rayshon's, 30-year-old season. Maybe, at the end of the season, they look at things and they're confident enough in Antonio Johnson stepping into a potential starter role next year.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I kind of feel like Rayshon would have been – they ended up not – did they, release anyone early this offseason? Because I think this offseason would have been – the time that they could have cut a couple cords loose, like Roy Robertson Harris, or who did you say?
It was just Shaq.
Yeah. So, Jenkins was a guy that I thought maybe could have played his last year, but until he made 5 different game-winning plays, and it's no way he's not going to be on the team.
But that's just the rule of that's the law of locker rooms. You can't take a guy who made so many game-saving plays in the season like that and go to the locker room with a straight face and be no, this guy's released. You just can't, So I anybody who thinks Antonio Johnson, they drafted a starter in the 5th round, is going to come in and put up defensive rookie of the year type numbers. I think he's going to be a special teams guy and Rayshon's backup. So the immediate returns, I don't think will be that exciting, but maybe down the road.
That's fair. All right, now to finish it off, we've got 3 specialists: punter Logan Cook, kicker Riley Patterson, long snapper Ross Matisik.
The fact that I listed them is as much as I have no takes on specialists. They don't have to worry about inviting a bunch of kickers to camp this time.
That was going to be my only question. You think Patterson's job is fairly safe?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as kickers go, he's not Justin Tucker safe, but he's not who they have last year. That tank.
Matthew Wright?
No, the guy they signed who was looked like a linebacker, a kicker.
Oh.
They had so many
different Santos?
Something like that.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I forget his name.
He's safer than he was.
Okay.
He's between that and Justin Tucker.
Somewhere on the scale.
Yeah. Those are the 2 ends, and he's somewhere there in the middle.
Okay. All right. Well, we've gotten through your whole 53-man depth chart roster prediction following the draft. So, to me, I already talked about it and wrote about it, how I'm shocked about how they didn't take outside corner or edge help until Abdullah, and that was pretty much it. So, to me, if the Jaguars are going to sign anyone in free agency from now to the beginning of the season, then outside cornerback and edge would make the most sense. So I've got a few names. Should I just rattle them off? You want to take turns?
Go ahead, rattle them off.
How many names do you have written down?
6. That's so disappointed. I have
Okay, I've got 9 edge rushers. Just their names written down. Okay, let me pair some together. Unique Ngakwe, Dwayne Smoot, and Dante Fowler, former Jaguars, maybe could come back.
Smoot, I think, makes a lot of sense. Like, but you just have to like factor in his injury. So Yannick, I think, would be like the like shift kiss like signing. I think so. I think Yannick would make a ton of sense. It's just both sides have to understand like what the expectations are.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that thing about how there's like a little bit of a disagreement with the contract, but I can't really see like any other NFL team giving Ngakwe like starter money. So if he's not going to get starter money from any team, then it comes down to who he wants to get like a rotational salary from. And I feel like there's a decent chance it'll end up being Jacksonville.
Yeah, that ship on him like getting big deals is sailed.
Yeah.
Sometimes players have to accept that, let the market tell them that. Like I think Zeke Elliott's probably a good example of that. He went from being a 12 million. Like Tampa Bay's running back coach for some reason was talking about Zeke Elliott and said like somebody has to tell him like you went from being a $12 million running back to now you're a $4 million running back. Like, you basically just have to accept that. And it's basically a similar thing here.
Yeah, Dante Fowler was pretty unserious. I just figured I'd throw him in because I already had 2 other former Jags.
That is one of the prospects I have been the most right about in my life, and I will take that to the grave.
Okay, nice. I would say up there with Ngakwe, Leonard Floyd for me would be. He's probably going to be too expensive unless like the same thing happens where no one's willing to pay him starter money.
Fair.
But I think he's just the best edge guy available. So, and then like my value pick would be Kyle Van Noy, who was on the Chargers last year and is like just a pretty good locker room guy and super versatile on the defense where he can play off ball if you want. He can play a lot of edge. He can blitz from different places and drop back in coverage. And I feel like he would just be a really good glue piece for the entire defense in the locker room.
Can I throw a name at you?
Yeah.
Marcus Colton.
Yep, that was one of the ones I had written down.
Yeah.
Well, why did you write him down?
He was with Brinson Buckner in Arizona, and he's like basically every team that needs to sign a pass rusher after the draft says they should sign Marcus Colton. It's like it's like his role in the like as an NFL like NPC basically. Yeah, like, he makes sense as like a third edge.
Definitely, yeah. Am I confusing with someone else, or does he have like freakishly long arms?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah, so I think that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Can I throw another one at you that maybe you have, maybe you don't?
You may.
Carlos Dunlap.
I did not have that one.
There we go.
Former Gator, so I support it.
Yeah.
I actually did see his name when I was looking around, but like, what did he do last year?
Former Gator. Reconsidering it now. No, I mean, what did a lot of these guys do last year? Like you're getting it's Yannick and Justin Houston and Leonard Floyd.
Right.
What did they do last year? Like these guys are free agents for a reason. Nobody's letting a top pass rusher leave in free agency. So I mean, if you're asking for like perfection, like you're not going to get it here. And if you want to not pay a ton of money for it, then you maybe have to go to the value bin a little bit.
Well, I think Carlos Dunlap wouldn't get me like super excited, but I would just be thankful for the depth. And I think he's a very playable guy, even if like, because I think the reason I asked you about him is because I feel like I saw some excitement when he joined the Chiefs a year or 2 ago and just like haven't heard a single thing about him since then. But assuming he's still able to hold up at age 34 or whatever it is now, then yeah, I would like it.
Give me some more names. Give me some more names. I got more takes for you.
I don't really have that many more interesting ones. Frank Clark is on there. I feel like he's like probably a little bit overhyped, but he would still like definitely give the Jaguars good snaps. It would kind of just like come down to the contract, I think, in terms of how valuable he would be.
Yeah.
And then like Justin Houston and Melvin Ingram, I wrote down just because they're kind of like how you said, the just popular old guy edge rusher names who are still fairly productive.
I mean, Justin Houston, I think makes a lot and the Jaguars for once, like the veterans who want a ring, the Jaguars can actually appeal to, like for the first time. So
Mhm.
I think Justin Houston. I mean, Bob Sutton was with Justin Houston for a good long period of time in Kansas City. So
Yeah.
connections,
I think he would arguably be the best signing, even like though he's
and he'd
over
probably
5 years older than Jan.
he'd probably be really good for Trayvon.
Right. That's what I'm thinking because I was just him and Jan would both be like 9 tech, just like rush from the way outside and let Trayvon do a little bit of disruption from the interior, as opposed to like Melvin Ingram would just like add versatility, but he can kind of go inside too and isn't as good as like a.
You're describing an Arden Key like player.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I think I got through all the names on my list for Edge.
Okay.
You have any other ones? Or I got one more off the top of my head, but you go.
No, come on.
I was gonna say Zadarius Smith on the Vikings as a trade candidate. I'm gonna shut myself down because the last report I read on him from the Athletic was that he wanted to get traded so that he could get a new contract. So I kind of doubt that the Jaguars would trade for him and then give him a new contract. But I
And
just
the
figured I throw the name out.
and like the Jags also like their picks are tied like Ridley right now, so I'm not really sure like other than like bottom like of the roster type players, like what players like they'd be interested in trading for. Like I think any trades would have had to happen pre-draft. So I mean, other than edge rusher, what other names you got for me? Just give me. You don't have to stop. Just give me your names. Give me your names. I'll be the word of law and say yes or no.
Okay, I've got 4 cornerback names, and then I'm my list is done.
Okay, let's hear it.
Marcus Peters,
No.
agreed. He got toasted by the Jaguars last year, so it would make a ton of sense. He's just a like
Yeah.
fun vet.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay.
No. I agree with you. I agree with you. But no.
If you was like okay with accepting a backup role, then I feel like it could like be
He
pretty
just very
great.
much
But
does not seem like somebody who would be
no,
okay with
not
that.
at all. Ronald Darby
That'd be interesting.
could be interesting. Casey Hayward.
That'd be interesting as long as you show him the best early bird special places to hit around town. Enough old slot. Enough. See what the kids can do, man.
I'm just like, yeah.
You can't run anymore, Gus. Let him go. You've been trying to add Casey Hayward to the Jaguars like 4 years now.
Have I?
Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2 years.
In my
All
head,
right.
you have.
And then this one's a little bit unserious, but Eli Apple is my last one. He's the only like young guy on the list, though.
Eli Apple would get in many online discussions with certain sectors of Jaguars Twitter.
Okay, but here's the thing: do the Jaguars have like their next character on the team? Because 2 years ago, let's say 3 years ago, it was Fournette. 2 years ago, it was, man, who's that edge rusher that came from Baltimore?
Jahad Ward.
Yeah, it was Jahad Ward, and then last year it was Arden Key. So who's it going to be this year? Maybe Eli Apple.
Fair enough. I think their braggadocious guy is going to be Gordon, like their energy guy is going to be Robinson Harris. But that's like, I don't know. Just like I'm not sure if Eli Apple would like. I'm trying to figure out the best way. Like would the Jaguars be worth putting up with Eli Apple's antics for Eli Apple play?
No,
he's
like, literally the last name on my list, John. I'm telling you, it's unserious. But
I got
Roy Robertson Harrison is too nice to be a character. I think he needs a little more crazy in him.
Okay. Can I give you a couple names?
Please do.
Mario Edwards.
Okay. I thought he was at the league 4 years ago, but sure.
Okay, he was literally on the roster last year.
Yeah, I think you said that to me like in a podcast a couple weeks ago too, but I don't care.
All right. Max Williams.
So that's a no for me. Max Williams?
Yeah.
Is that the tight end?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him. He was on my list like 3 years ago for the Jaguars tad. I like Max Williams.
Okay. Gabe Jackson.
Yes. Was he on Oakland last?
I think so.
Yeah, I like Gabe Jackson. I was also looking at Dalton Risner. Do you think he would make any sense? Because like he used to start for like 3 or 4 years and he's pretty young, so I would kind of.
No, I think Risner make it like you read like I think Risner would make a ton of sense. You know, especially if Barch isn't going to start training camp healthy. I think Risner would make a ton of sense, honestly. Like I think that'd be a home run like addition like post draft.
I do too, and like the fact that he hasn't been signed yet probably means he's not going to get a lot of money. It's just like I feel like he was a decent starter for a few years and is still young and doesn't have crazy injury concerns. So I'm just a little surprised that he hasn't signed with anyone yet.
Okay, can I give you a couple more?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Chris Wormley.
Don't know what position he plays, so no.
Defensive tackle. Matt Ioannidis.
I like that one. That one's. I feel like he's always like a popular like depth free agent name, but I think he's also like pretty solid and would be a good piece. So I like that one.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm sitting down.
Here comes the heat.
Okay.
Ezekiel Elliott.
I would have loved it before the draft. Now I'm just like unsure because Tank is there.
I'll be honest, I forgot they drafted him back in the third round.
Before Zeke was even released by the Cowboys, I was like maybe trade target because I think he makes a lot of sense in terms of
he's like literally polar opposite of ETN.
Yeah, he's like one of the best pass blocking backs in the league, which would be huge. And then he's also like a great short yardage guy in between the tackles guy. So that would make a ton of sense.
That was all I had. It's not an enticing free agency group. Like you said, these guys they would have been signed, you know, during the actual free agency wave. Like if teams are tripping over themselves, they weren't going to let these guys just sit in the market this long. So it's basically, in my opinion, this part of the offseason, like it's a waiting game. You try to get guys to agree to certain roles, etc. Like it's much more about finding the right roles for guys. And you know, it seems like the Jaguars want like a designated pass rusher. And if you want to get like be a pass rusher and you want to be paid and treated like a starter, I don't know if Jacksonville makes the most sense for, you know, them. So
all right, well, I just really want an edge and hopefully an outside cornerback. I don't even really care about the name. If it's an exciting name, then that will be fun. But I kind of think Jacksonville's an unserious contender until they address at least one of those positions.
Are we ready for the hot take section?
Yeah. I already gave a bad one earlier.
My hot take is they don't add anybody. Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be a long spring.
That's just a hot take too. That's just me. I'm firing off the hip, off the cuff.
Right.
Maybe they don't add anybody. You know, maybe they roll with who they got.
All right. Well, maybe my hot take is like they're just completely unserious as like Super Bowl or even AFC contenders until they add a veteran on defense to help like fill out some depth.
Definitely seems like they're all in on this whole you know, we're returning everybody thing.
Like, I mean, yeah. But the same thing again with edge, and then there was one other position you said where if one person goes down, like if Tyson Campbell misses 2 games, like I would almost chalk that up as 2 losses regardless of the opponent because you're going to be trotting out Trey Herndon, Darius Williams, and some other jabroni, and they're not going to be able to defend the run or the pass.
Hey, there's no room for that talk.
Yeah, you're right. I apologize to all the jabronis on the team.
There's no room for that. Now I'm with you. Like they're basically like they're a very top heavy roster. You know?
Yeah.
The point of the draft is to not be a top heavy roster, but you won't know that for a couple of years because it takes years for these guys to develop. You know, like the returns on the 2023 class will not be this year. You know, like they just won't be.
The positive though is just how many draft picks that they have. So the more chances you have, the more chances you have to hit. So that part of the process, right?
Yeah, you pick 13 players, somebody's got to be able to play.
At least one.
You would think.
Hopefully 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah, I mean their 2020 class. I'd say they have what 6 guys still left from that class. Not a good class at all because their first 3 picks are no longer with the team, but they got a good nose tackle out of it. And some backup safeties and cornerbacks and linebackers.
Yeah.
And Ben Barch. That's it.
I don't know the last time the Jags made like a memorable day 3 pick other than Gardner Minshew?
Yeah, no, not in the last couple of years.
No.
They normally like hit the snooze on day 3.
And like to be fair, it's day 3, so it's not like every other team is like coming out with starters on day 3, but it's just been like nothing but like special teams guys pretty much, or depth for day 3 on for the Jaguars. So
That's how you build.
definitely Balky will definitely get judged for like his Trayvon pick and his Anton pick and Devin Lloyd pick, but I feel like we should. I mean, as you said, you can't really talk about it too much until a couple of years from now and see how they pan out. But it's definitely very important.
You can probably give Trayvon and Devin Lloyd like a month before people start talking about them. Like a month, into, like you can start talking about that class. Like it's fair to start talking once the season kicks off and we're a few games into it. It's a lot of pressure on those two guys, but
no, I agree. I just meant like the class.
I agree with you. I'd like you can probably judge Anton, and that's probably about it. And not like judge him to a full extent because you know a rookie is allowed to struggle as a rookie, but you know you can start forming an opinion on Anton, and that's probably about it.
Even Anton though, like I'm gonna try to curb expectations like as much as possible, just because there's like I don't know. I haven't gone back to watch him quite yet, but the stuff that I've seen is like he could have used another room or another year in a college weight room, and like I wouldn't be surprised to see him like struggle against power rushes for the first half of his rookie season.
Yeah, I mean Walker Little was kind of similar.
Yeah,
you know, like Walker Little was noticeably bigger last year than he was as a rookie. So yeah, you know, I'm with you, and he really doesn't. He reminds me a lot of Jawan as a prospect, and that was also something Jawan had. Like Jawan had to, you know, basically get right in terms of like being physically ready for the NFL. You know, so I'm with you.
All right. I'm all out. I'm all of takes
I've
calling people jabronis who are like doing a way cooler job than I am.
We're gonna curb that next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the jabroni. I'm kidding. I'm pretty sure I've said much worse.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else before we get out of here?
What
are we gonna talk about next week?
That's a that's a next week problem, my friend. I barely even know what day it is today. So we'll hit next week. But you know, as always, you can find us at the Jaguar Report podcast. Make sure to download us. We're on all streaming services. You know, you can find us at JaguarReport.com, BigCatCountry.com. Gus, you got anything?
No, sir. See you jabronis later.